Is it working now? Yeah, there we go. Ha! Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Illusion Fox Gaming. How are all of you? Hopefully you're all doing well. So, we're now diving into the stormblood patches. Only took us long enough. Can we do any better gear-wise? No, not really. Okay. Well, it was worth the look. Lise seems troubled. Sure. Yeah, probably. Right then, let's go and find Master Lovelace. Actually, leave that to me. I want you fresh for our little adventure. Wait for us by the 8th rate, and we'll be along shortly. Oh, God. What nonsense are we getting into now? Where the fuck am I? Okay. Oh, wait, I can use mounts here, can't I? One of the few cities where you can actually do that. Greetings. 'Twould seem we are to accompany Ironvolt in some manner of escapade. Have you any idea what we've gotten ourselves into? Nope. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That's what it's going to be. Allow me to explain. It'll be something of a history lesson, but I'll try to be brief. No snoring, if you please. Now, the events I should speak of occurred before the occupation, back when Alamiga was still a monarchy and Theodoric sat the throne. A uniquely brutal despot, by all accounts. That he was. The King of Ruin suffered no rivals, real or imagined, and his dispute with the monks of the Fist ended with Rhalgr's Reach being burned to the ground. In the latter years of his rule, he was seized by the unshakable belief that unseen forces were conspiring to steal his crown, and so he ordered that every soul with a claim to the throne be executed, including his own family. The wealth of the poor sods he put to death became the property of the king, and it's said that these royal treasures were hoarded somewhere in the palace. Thus was born the legend of the Mad King's Trove. I believe I see the direction our adventure is to take. I assume you have a mind to unearth this hidden bounty. You assume correctly. And I'd also be correct in assuming that this legend is widely known. Others must surely have gone in search of your prize, tempting as it seems. Well, of course, we won't be the first to make the attempt. Following Alamigo's liberation, more than a few eager soldiers turned the palace upside down in hopes of claiming an easy fortune. But even after scouring every room from dawn till dusk, they uncovered not a single coin. Their gold lust drained away as quickly as it had come, and the legend of the Mad King's Trove remained simply that, a legend. But I see you have no intention of letting the story end there. What self-respecting adventurer would imagine the three of us delving into decades-old mystery? Tell me the thought doesn't set your heart to racing. No, not really. Unless you've got a treasure map, I'm not that interested. You almost see the wheels turning in Alphino's head. The news of Dome and Alamigo's liberation has kindled the flames of revolution in every corner of the Empire. I hear the Imperial province of revolution in every corner of the Empire. I hear the Imperial province of Dalmasca has already risen up in rebellion. Which means the Garleans must surely have their hands full. What better time than now to indulge in such a diversion? Tell us, Ehrenwald, have we any clues as to where we might begin our search? Well, judging by how the other treasure hunters fared, nosing about the palace isn't like to guess anywhere, so we'll probably need to ask around. Would that be another way of saying no? Well, yeah. I see. In that case, I shall pay a visit to the Allied Archivist and request access to the records seized from the Imperials. The Garleans are meticulous about such things. If they uncovered the trove during the occupation, the event is certain to have been recorded. In the meantime, the two of you track down those who worked as palace servants and officials in Theodoric's day. Given that they would have been at least 20 at the time, you will be looking for people who have seen 40 summers or more. Anything they can tell you about the king and his bloody deeds may prove useful, so be sure to listen well. Ernvold, pray try your luck in the fingers and peaks whilst Warrior of Light makes the round in the Alamegan Quarter. And there I was thinking I was the party leader. Not that I mind, of course. Let's be about it, eh? We can meet afterwards at Gearbard's Gate. Let's see here. And the Alamegan Quarter. In the palace? No, not me, lass. Surely you've heard the stories of the Mad King. He used to hold public executions up on the Divine Audience. Anyone suspected of conspiring against the crown was flung from the tops of those steps. Suffice it to say that I stayed as far away from the palace as possible. You want to hear an old maid's stories, do you? Aye, well, most of what I know of the Mad King is common knowledge. We didn't only see His Royal Majesty when he dined to attend the executions, and he ordered. And after a while, even watching his enemies die wasn't enough to coax him out of hiding. They say he started seeing assassins in every shadow and once set foot outside the palace walls. I was offered work there as a royal servant once, but the mere thought of it left me in a cold sweat. Yeah, well, I wouldn't be too thrilled about trying to work for a mad king either. Excuse me. I served to the pleasure of the King Theodoric and lived to tell the tale. One of the palace guards I was. Truth be told, it was a dark chapter in my life, and one I'd sooner forget. Hardly a night went by when we didn't hear the blood-curdling screams echoing from the inner chambers, which of course we were under orders to ignore. So we'd stand still as statues, trying not to imagine what horrors were unfolding within. If you're hell's bent on finding out what happened in the palace, head down the street here and ask old Arnold. He was the king's head scribe. Yes, Arnold, what do you want with me? You would have me dredge up some decidedly unsavory memories, yet if Alamigo is to move forward, we must needs acknowledge the misdeeds of the past. Very well, I shall tell you what I remember. Take it you know of Theodoric's paranoia and the public executions of his kinsmen? Those were terrible enough, but in his last days the king fevered mind set upon an even grislier method of disposal, which only a chosen few were unfortunate enough to witness. His Majesty ordered the court thaumaturge to unleash a vile curse upon the remaining members of the royal family. A magic which transferred them transformed them into fiends of hideous aspect. The resulting monstrosities were then cast into the darkness below the palace. Even now, my sleep is troubled by nightmares. If others with Theodoric's blood were prone to share his madness, then mayhap it is kindness that the monarchy ended with him. Even now, okay. Now I gotta go speak with Arnvold. So here, why don't we share what we've learned? Let me begin then. As I promised, I scoured the Imperial records for any mention of fantastic treasures and found precisely none. It is just possible, I suppose, that a corrupt official deliberately hid the fact of the trove's discovery, hoping to enrich himself, but I find it rather unlikely that so valuable a find would stay secret for long. I conclude that either our prize does not exist or that the Imperial somehow overlooked it. But what of you, Illusion? Were your investigations then more fruitful? Turned into monsters, and what could he mean by this darkness beneath the palace, I wonder? I met an old man in Alighieri who spoke of the palace's subterranean prison, but he said nothing of cursed abominations. The Imperial archives were also silent on the subject of fiends inside the palace grounds. Could the scribe fellow have been spending her a yarn, do you think? Did you believe him? If he was afraid, that does lend credence to the tale, though I'm not sure how that helps us in our search. Do not be so hasty. Arnold's anecdote may very well have told us where the trove is hidden, but ere I share my theory, there is a matter I would clarify. Arnold, you spoke of light-hearted adventure, but I sense a deeper motive for this expedition. Why are you so intent on finding this treasure? It is a good question. It wasn't all pretense, I swear, but you're right. My father was in the Imperial Army, a man of Garlean blood. I trust you know what I mean when I say that my Alamegan mother did not welcome my arrival. As I grew, she would check my brow over and over, convinced that a spot in my skin was an emerging third eye, like the kind you see in pure-blood Garleans. My mother did not care for this taunting reminder of my heritage and took up a knife. War paint serves to cover the scar. In the end, she turned me out onto the streets, and I was left to hunt the alleyways of Alamigo. A feral child who got what he needed through begging, cunning, or worse. The best I can say about the years that followed is that I survived, but I hated the animal I would become. Eventually, I left the city behind me and joined a group of refugees bound for the other side of the wall. It was then that I turned to adventuring, and that road led me into the company of the Scions. I tell you this so that you can understand. I know all too well what poverty and hunger can do to a person. I drew steel and ordinary folk for a measly crust of bread. With Theodoric's gold, I could spare my countrymen the shame of living like that. Makes sense. Thank you, Aaronvold, and I apologize that can not have been pleasant to recall, but I felt best to be clear in our intentions. Well, are you content to surrender the treasure to Aaronvold's noble cause and claim the thrill of adventure as your reward? No! But I guess I'll do it anyways, because it's not going to give me a choice. And I should be glad to tell you my theory on the resting place of the Mad King's Trove if you are minded to hear it. Alphino seems eager to share his theory. Actually, mayhap it would be better if we first adjourned to a more suitable location. In case of rival treasure hunt overhears our plans, you mean? Good thinking. That was not exactly the reason, but 'tis certainly a valid concern. Let us reconvene on the southern edge of Loch Seld. So I don't have flight here yet. Forgive me. 'Twas not my intention to draw out in proceedings. I simply wished to have the lock in sight while I explained things. Prior to the great flood of the sixth umbral calamity, the salt lakes you see before you were yet dry ravines. And this, believe it or not, was the site of the ancient city of Skala, which rose and fell during the fifth astral era. From what we know of the period, the city was already deserted by the time the waters began to rise. Having been all but destroyed by war, yet its ruins remain to this day at the bottom of Loch Seld. It is my belief that the darkness beneath the palace mentioned by Theodoric's former scribe was not a reference to the prison, but to a place still further below the ruins of Scala. I further surmise that the Mad King's unfortunate kinsmen were cast down there not simply out of desire to punish them, but to discourage exploration. Theodoric wanted to keep the ruins secure. Wait, you're saying they were meant to guard the Mad King's trove? Precisely. And, since we know the court thaumaturge was involved, we can safely assume that any entrance into the old city will have been magically concealed. Which would explain how a legion of Imperial soldiers and the gods know how many Alamegans never found a trace of the trove. We, however, have certain advantages which they did not enjoy. We usually go to swim down to the bottom of the loch and search for an underwater route into the ruins. While you do that, Ehrenwald and I will seek out the ensorcered portal within the palace. Discover a passage that appears to lead under the palace foundations. Press on and find where it goes. Come to a worn stone door, standing temptingly ajar. It would appear you have found an entrance to the subterranean ruins. It's Alpha Node. We have searched the prison beneath the palace and found a door concealed by enchantments. Have you aught to report? And you believe it leads into the ruins? Excellent. I propose we proceed from our respective entry points and look to meet somewhere in the middle. Oh, come on, you two. We might as well make it a race. Victory goes to the first adventurer to find the treasure. Godspeed. Okay. No, not what I'm after. Here we go. Nope. Well, let's go back to Swift Perch and do some more leveling using leaves. Let's see what we were working on. Gladiator's done. So it looks like Lancer was what we were working on. I think might as well do something while we're waiting on the queue. There's apparently a new content drop on Babylon's Fall. It really is a good game. It reminds me. I mean, wait, was this not my target? Well, shit. Come on. It's like, spawn already. Getting ganged up on here pretty bad. I gotta get out of combat quickly. And into the right class. There we go. That wasn't the one I'd wanted to use. Wait, I don't have a limit break set anywhere on any of my bars. Well, that ain't good. Mm, there we go. Oh, that got a little hairy. the hell? I'm really not used to being this close to to a boss. God, I don't remember this place at all. I He's like, it's my treasure. You get out of here. I realized too late what was going on. Duty complete. Oh, they left already. Well, we got player recommendation. That's good. Aaronvold and I forged ahead at the fastest pace we could manage, but I was not surprised to find you waiting for us. I suppose it serves us right for challenging the Warrior of Light. Next time we should agree on some manner of handicap. We may have lost stuff, no, but think of what we found. Quite, I'm still reeling at the sight of that mountain of riches. What, like how you reeled at the sight of that floating specter? You mean you should have heard him scream? Must we dwell on some momentary lapses? We found the Mad King's trove, and that is all that matters. Annabelle is still grinning at Alphino's discomfort. All jesting aside, we must tell people the good news, and I think Lise should be the first. Second, there is to be a meeting of representatives from across the Alamigos, so she is sure to be in the city. Shall we seek her out? Oh, you three look pleased with yourselves. What have you been up to? I'm glad you asked, Lise, and I'm pretty sure you're going to like the answer. You're joking. The Mad King's trove? I thought it was a myth. So did plenty of other people, but they didn't have Illusion and Alphino in their party. The credit for finding it should really go to them. So what to do with it all, I vote that go towards alleviating the suffering of Alamigo's poor. Gods, if there's as much as you say. Aaronvold did not exaggerate, I assure you. We could not hope to carry even a fraction of it on our own. I've taken liberty of sketching out a rough map of the ruins. If you also assemble a squad of your most trusted freedom fighters, they should be able to follow the route to where the treasure lies. Understood. I'll make sure every coin is accounted for, and that goes for the spending of it as well. Thank you. Oh, there's one other thing. When the time comes to drop a plan for distributing the spoils, I would ask that you consult Alphino. I don't have a head for details, and I'm not educated. I see that simply handing out sacks of skill won't solve everything. But I couldn't rightly tell you what to do instead. Oh, I know the feeling. I'd welcome any advice you could give us, Alphino. Of course, I shall be at your disposal. Commander, we've got a problem. Oh, son of a... Deep breaths, tell me what happened. A mob's gathered outside headquarters and they started making demands. You best come and see for yourself. They're wanting some sort of mob justice. My thanks for Bond. Listening to their anger, I could feel myself being swept away. 'Tis a gulf tide to stem. 'Twas that same rage which brought us to our feet and carried us to victory, but now the war is over. All the unspent fury is being channeled into vengeance. Aye, and it's not just here. We've reports of mobs forming all over. They've been targeting folks known to have cooperated with the Garleans. It starts with insults more often, then someone picks up a stone. Some industrious souls even sought to seek out the graves of Xenos and his officers. It was grim. I want to build a country where everyone, regardless of race or origin, can live side by side in peace. But maybe the time isn't right. Maybe people just aren't ready. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. The representatives will be here soon, and I'll be damned if I want to give up before I've even begun. Who are these representatives exactly? Oh, village elders, refugee leaders, and the like. It wouldn't be right for us to dictate the nation's future on our own. So, we've made a summit of sorts. We even invited the Ananta and the Quirin to participate. Alamigo stands at a crossroads, and this meeting will decide which path it takes. The matter of Ferdola's sentence cannot be suffered to disrupt proceedings. Then let's execute and be done with it. She herself has to be put to death. Nago, I already explained why we wouldn't do that. Sending her to gallows might satisfy people right now, but where would it end? Should we round up everyone who collaborated and everyone who didn't resist? There'd be no one left, and we'd be no better than Theodoric and Xenos. Begging your pardon, but might I be allowed to speak with Fordola? Only I caught a glimpse of her past. Only a moment of it. Anyway, during the fight. She's done terrible things, unforgivable things, but in some ways she's a victim of the circumstances in which she was born, and that's something I can understand. Alright, stick with the prison guard when you're ready, and I'll come and join you. I want to talk to her too. I'll return to my other duties then. We've barely begun to investigate the facility where they gave Fordola her powers. Be fairly warned, friends. She will test you. Don't let your emotions color your judgment when she does. You have the commander's permission to enter then? Yep, I do. No, they won't. You're an ass. Yeah, just a little bit. Nope. You're right. He did. For those I've lost, for those I can yet save. I mean, she was able to challenge the Warrior of Light. I don't think that door would really stop her if she really wanted to put her foot down. Lisa's lost in thought. I don't know what that we solved anything exactly, but we've given Ferdola something to think about at least. And I found something new to think about too. I don't know about you, but the visions only come to me every now and then. From the way Ferdola kept wincing, though, I get the feeling she's having them almost all the time. It's a lot of bad memories to deal with. I wonder, could there be some fundamental difference between one who's born with the echo and one who has been artificially imbued with it? Well, the Immortal Flames have been scouring the research facility ever since the liberation. There's a chance they might have some answers for us. General Dean's there overseeing the investigation. Let's go and pay him a visit, shall we? What news? You spoke with Fredola, I take it. Yes, as expected, she didn't say very much, but it wasn't a total waste of time. Errol knows something odd about her. He thinks she might be having visions almost constantly, which is not how the Echo normally works. Have you found anything here which might explain why it's so different for her? We've been hard pressed just to organize the research materials, let alone study them. To be frank, I'd welcome the science expert assistance you have time to lend a hand. The Network's received requests from the Alliance to analyze these devices, and I've been recording everything of interest. Do you notice the labeling? All the are designed to drain the ether of the occupant, save that one right there. Unlike the others, the interior has been fitted with an array of sensors to measure etheric waveforms. To what purpose, however, I couldn't tell you. Nope, not a thing of use there. So many bodies, every one of them has a victim of these experiments. Few show any signs of external injury, but we've been able to determine they perished from forcible aether extraction. Such a miserable way to die. I know little and less of science, so any light you can shed on this facility's operations would be much appreciated. Shall we start with you? Taken in combination with the testimonies of Cryo and Thancred, I do begin to see exactly what the Imperials were attempting here. The enhancement procedure entailed infusing a single candidate with the aether siphoned from a multitude of supply subjects. As for the master subject, in this case Cryo, the patterns of etheric activity would provide the model upon which they would artificially engineer the candidate's aura. In other words, they were trying to recreate Cryo's echo. I believe so, which explained our prisoner's present state. Cryo was possessed of an unrivaled ability to hear the whispers of the soul, and it seems probable that the procedure engendered the same acute sensitivity in Fortola. The soldiers guard Fortola, many of them lost friends and family to the skulls. And there's a sentry at her door night and day. She can't help sensing their thoughts and seeing their past. But you don't just see their past, you live it. All the emotions, all the pain. Imagine what it'd do to you. You'd never be the same again. Indeed, as you may recall, Isael was completely transformed by a single glimpse of Rosvagar's past. Fordola has been forced to experience the agony of those whose lives she destroyed. The guilt must be unbearable. That explains her request to be executed. Sounds to me like kind of a justice. Regardless, she can suffer on for now. We have more pressing matters to consider. If the results of these experiments have been relayed back to Garlemald, they'll be naught to stop the Empire from repeating the trick. They'd give the echo to anyone, to an entire legion. We must be ready. We must learn all we can of these godforsaken procedures. And Fordola remains our best source of information. She'll not be getting her wish. Not yet. Right. Keep faith, lass. If you're to convince others to follow you, you must believe what you're telling them. People will respond to passion, but not if it's feigned. I understand. Thank you, General. We should leave the flames to it. Let's go. I go looking for answers about the Echo and ended up getting schooled by Raban. Yet more of him says I don't know what I'm doing. It's no wonder people will listen to him and not me. Geraldine is a veteran of countless campaigns, Lee, so you cannot compare yourself to a commander of his experience. I know, but I also know that I couldn't have convinced that mob to give up and go home. It makes me realize how much we rely on his authority and how much I still have to learn. I wonder what he'll do when everything here is settled. I mean, it's his homeland. After going to the trouble of winning it back, might he not want to stay? Just a quandary which countless refugees now face. To continue the life they built in Olda, or start again in the lands of their birth? A moment. I'm newly returned from Olda with a message from the Sultana. Her Grace desires an audience with you. She understands that you have responsibilities here, but asks that you visit the palace at your earliest convenience. Well, I must away and tend to other business. Until next time, my friends. As an audience with the Sultana, depending on the nature of her consultation, this might be the perfect opportunity to inquire about the General's future plans. Yes, we'd all like to know about those. Alphino, but not everyone is comfortable interrogating royalty as you. Take no notice of him. Alphino's thoughts appear to have turned from adventure to administration. Well, the question of how to put the Mad King's treasures to good use shows no sign of answering itself. Shall we be about it, Arenvald? I am at your beck and call. And I should be getting back to my own tasks. Organize a squad to head down into the ruins and then start preparing for the big meeting. Oh, send Nonamo my regards. Nurse too, if you please. We shall see you on your return. Oh, it only gave jewelry. Okay. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, shouldn't this have changed too? You're expected. Please proceed. I guess. To the quicksand. What do you think of Lilira, the merchant's daughter? This is the disguise I can don when I wish to leave the palace and serve my subjects unnoticed. Ordinarily, Papachon would accompany, but for this particular outing, I need an advisor, not a minder. And that is why I requested your company. Over the course of your many adventures, you have met people from all walks of life, in every corner of Eorzea, and I would make use of your worldly experience. Now let us be on our way. Our first destination is Stone's Throw, just beyond the gates of Nald. Look upon this procession of tattered tents. These refugees camp in squalor at the mercy of the elements and Thanaland's predators both. The city's walls might offer safety, but the streets overflow with people as it is, and unless blessed by the hand of Nald himself, no refugee could ever hope to afford a dwelling in Ul'dah. 20 years have passed since the fall of Alamigo, and 5 since the calamity, yet the plight of the poor has grown more desperate, not less. As Sultana, the blame falls upon me. Yes, my authority is limited, and that is an obstacle I must work to overcome. Shall we press on? I'd follow the road to the unholy air. There we go. It was here, in this wholly unremarkable place, that my mother and father met their doom. I was but a child at the time. My parents were returning from an inspection of our interests in eastern Thanaland, when an untimely rockslide crushed their carriage. To this day, it is not certain if the incident was simple misfortune or an expertly planned assassination. Raban once offered to reopen the investigation and bring me the truth. He assumed I must surely have craved, but I refused. Even if my parents' deaths were orchestrated by the Monetarists, we could only have brought their hirelings to justice. The true villains, those who plotted to put me on the throne as a biddable puppet, were ever beyond our reach. Thus I planned to strip the merchants of their power and place our nation in the hands of its citizens. Quite unaware of the consequences my actions would have for you and yours, I shudder to think how many goodly souls paid the price of my naivete. But I am no longer a child reciting words with witless obedience, and I will not be used as a pawn in the monetarious damnable games. Forgive me, my outburst. You are one of the few people to whom I feel I can speak my mind. Come, let's return to Ul'dah and visit the Colosseum. From the moment I became Sultana, I find myself thrust into the endless parade of document signing and ceremonies. For years, I simply signed where I was told to sign and sat where I was told to sit, blissfully oblivious to what any of it meant. Yet one good thing did come from that inglominous chapter in my life, for it was during an official visit to the Coliseum that I first met Raban. The match I had been invited to attend was not at all what I expected. They'd pit the Bull of El Amigo against some dozen or so rival gladiators. Blinkered though I was, I would not stand for so obvious injustice and demanded to see a fair fight. One man against another, and my royal wish was duly granted. It was not until later that I learned of the gambling ring which had arranged for Raban to die on the sands that day. Regardless, my intervention meant that Raban had put a single opponent to dispatch, which he duly did, and when he knelt before me to receive the winner's purse, he swore that he would one day offer me his blade in service. Surrounded as I was by liars and manipulators, I confess I dismissed it as a pleasant piece of theater. But as you know, Raban is a man of his word. Though it took him another 5 years of fighting on the blood sands, he amassed a fortune so great as to buy not only his freedom, but a seat on the syndicate, and then I had my blade. Yeah, he has to stay in Olda. No, 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 no. They're too cute together. Words cannot well express what that man means to me. There are others who care deeply for my well-being, of course. Papa love for me is that of a grandsire for his grandchild. But upon matters of governance, I cannot turn to bodyguards and maidservants for counsel. Raban, with the authority of this syndicate position, was the first sword I could yield. He was the only edge which could cut the strings that bound me. We must make haste. My absence will not go unnoticed by the Sultan Sworn for long, and there are other places I would visit. To the Arzaneth ossuary. When the calamity threatened, Raban led the Alliance forces into battle. On the plains of Cartanona, I remained here. I prayed with all my heart that Archon Louisoix would have the power to rouse the 12. Since that day, I've made a custom of visiting this shrine during each of my little excursions. Here I seek the blessing of Thal, reflect upon my choices, and ask myself if I am fulfilling my duties as Sultana. You are rightly celebrated as a champion because you have led the line in 100 battles for the good of Eorzea in much the same way. I believe the measure of a monarch lies in how she leads her people in times of adversity. If I am to be a Sultana worthy of the name, I cannot turn a blind eye to the troubles facing Ul'dah. I have chosen my path. With Alamigo now freed from imperial chains, I finally see a way to aid the refugees. Already many displaced Alamegans seek to begin the long trek home. To facilitate that process, I've made a small contribution. An artisan school in Rhalgar's Reach for any who wish to learn new trades. Realistically, however, it will take years for such training to yield tangible benefits. But we do not have years. These people will need shelter and employment if they are to survive, and this time, the Ul'dah treasury shall provide. Precisely where and how to allocate the necessary funds is, of course, another question. A wise suggestion. Mayhap a visit to the Gold Saucer is in order. Its proprietor is a member of the syndicate, and he is one of the few who pay refugees a fair wage. I wonder, are you acquainted with Godbert Manderville? Ah, well, he is a most generous man. There's something of an eccentric. Let us make our way to the landing, and I will see that word is sent to the Gold Saucer. Godbert should be only too glad to receive us. No. I have ridden aboard the public airship before, but this shall be my first visit to the Gold Saucer. I must confess to some excitement. I'd heard descriptions of splendor, yet I never dreamed it would be so bright and inviting. No, I can't possibly. We did not come here to fritter away the royal coin. Godbert will be expecting us. Come, let us head directly to the lounge and ignore these gaudy temptations. I believe this is where we were to meet Lord Manderville. Shall we sit while we wait his coming? My apologies, Your Grace. I have kept you waiting. No apologies are necessary, Godbert. My request was sudden, and you were kind to make yourself available at such short notice. When the Sultana herself comes calling, there is no more important engagement. As for the purpose of my visit, I would have your thoughts on how the Crown might best aid the refugees residing in Thanalan. You are aware, I'm sure, that many of Alamigo's displaced sons and daughters long to return to their newly liberated homeland. You're also aware how they will suffer without shelter and work to sustain them. I'd use our nation's wealth to spare them that suffering. What advice have you for me on the matter of how it might best be distributed? The unusual circumstance of our meeting and your Grace's choice of companion would suggest to me a desire for an honest and unvarnished opinion. I shall give you one. My advice to you is stop. Taxing Olda's wealth to save Alamigan refugees is a terrible, terrible idea. You oppose my proposition? Most emphatically, I agree with your Grace that the refugees must have housing and employment. But what profit is there for Olda in this arrangement? Profit? After all you've done for Garabania's displaced, I thought you the very last person to seek to benefit from their misfortune. Forgive me, your Grace, but you appear to be laboring under a misapprehension. It is a fine endeavor to support one's fellow man. I fear, however, that your stance is to be one born of pity. Your intent is to save the refugees, is it not? For all our potential, we are indolent creatures by nature. If unconditional charity is all we know, then we begin to rely upon it, to expect it. And then we must consider Olda's own poor and downtrodden. Should they hear of you spending the nation's coin not to improve their lot, but to nurture the distant citizens of Alamigo, it is unlikely they will applaud your generosity. Surely it is not your Grace's intention to foster new resentments, but to spread goodwill. Indeed, then any support I pledge to the refugees must promote self-sufficiency whilst also serving the interests of the people of Ulda. Exactly so. Such an arrangement will create a far more equitable relationship with the returning Alamegans, even as it generates the revenue required to win the approval of your subjects. You have given me much to ponder, Lord Manderville. I thank you for your candor. Come on. Come on. There it goes. Appears to be reassessing her plans. Prophet, the thought never even crossed my mind. But saying about lamenting my naivete will not do anyone any good. I shall consider my lesson learned and press on. Are you perchance acquainted with any successful merchants? If my attempt at philanthropy is obliged to reap a profit, it would seem wise to consult someone with a knack for business. Ordinarily I would not trust any agent of the East Owner Trading Company. But if you hold this Hancock fellow in high esteem, I'm content to be led by you. You may repay my faith by journeying to distant Kugane and speaking with him on my behalf. Eager though I am to visit those shores, I have not the leisure for a lengthy sea voyage. Now, something you will travel as adventurers are wont to do. I shall wait your report by the 8th rate Nolda. A fair journey to you, and a swift one if you please. dun, 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 dun. Greetings, will you be entering the Ruby Bazaar offices? Yes, yes, I will be. To what do I owe the pleasure? Are you here on business? I beg your pardon, Her Grace of Sultana would have my opinion on how best to invest the wealth of Uda? I have you to thank for this recognition, I am sure, and I am flattered that you came to me, truly flattered. But why settle for a lowly apprentice when you could have the master upon master's profit? There is no living soul better qualified to advise Her Grace and Chairman Lolorito, and whose morning exertions are said to fill his garderobe with gold. I should be happy to arrange a meeting for you, say at the Scion's former headquarters in Thaneland. The Long Sands would seem a suitably neutral venue for negotiations, don't you think? Very well, and may your dealings prove fruitful. Welcome back. Did your merchant friend have any useful advice to share? What, Lolorito, and you agreed to this? Didn't really give me a choice. I am well aware of his standing in the field of business, but I had hoped to keep the monetarist at arm's length, and him in particular. Nay, I cannot live in fear of the man. I must learn how to treat with him if I am to rule Uda effectively. Very well, I meet with Lolorito. Let us go ahead to the Waking Saints and prepare for his coming. So, this is where the Scions first congregated. I've heard many tales, but never had occasion to visit. To work then. To work then. The hour of the meeting draws near, and I gather my thoughts. Pray see to it that we have the appointed room to ourselves. No, that's not what we're here for. Lillara. I fear it will be many years before I feel comfortable taking part in such negotiations. But I shall not complain. We have piqued Lolorito's interest and secured his invaluable expertise. Thank you. I could not have done it without you. Securing the Sultry was ready to move ahead with her plans. Our course is decided. I shall return to the palace and have my ministers begin work on implementing the particulars of the plan. If I could prevail upon you one more time, I would ask that you convey the details of our negotiations to Commander Hext on your return to Alamigo. My thanks again. Together we have laid the groundwork for an endeavor which promises to benefit the people of Alamigo and Olda both. You're back. What did Nanamo? Oh, sorry. Are you allowed to talk about your audience with the Sultana? Saran says he's going to return to Olda, but she isn't sure he wants to. Tell us something we don't know. But I'm pleased to hear she's committed to helping our refugees come home. And this plan to revitalize the Sultry does make a lot of sense. Quite how you convinced her to seek Lolorito's help is another question. After all that has happened, he is the very last person I would expect her to turn to for advice. But on a more practical note, at least assuming the interim government elects to accept Olda's proposal, I have one caveat I should like you to include in the bargain. Alamigo must be permitted to cover a portion of the investment. We have a fortune at our disposal after all, and allowing Olda to provide the entirety of the capital will afford Lolorito too much control. Honestly, Alphino, it's like Kagane never happened. What exactly does a ruthless profiteer have to do to earn your trust? But yes, you do make a good point. First things first, though, we need to discuss this proposal with the Sultry's residents. Whiskar, how do you fancy explaining the Sultana's plan to your grandfather? I'd like to hear what Watt thinks of the idea before agreeing to anything. Right away, Commander. Would you mind coming along? I might need you to fulfill in the details. Thou should come as well. Should Watt wish to discuss figures, my knowledge of the nation's finances may prove useful. What manner of mischief brings you youngins to old Watt this time, eh? They want you to rebuild the Sultry, Granddad. Tell them about the deal. Well, bugger me, we've never had the coin on our or the hands to put the place back to how it was, but it sounds like that's about to change. There's just one small wrinkle in your plan. It doesn't account for the nastiest queuing up to eat anyone who goes near the shore. The king used to send soldiers to call the buggers, but the Imperials weren't able to help the likes of us. Don't worry, Granddad, we'll take care of it. All that. Commander Hex has been talking about starting up regular patrols. I'm sure she'd assign me to the lock if I asked. I'd appreciate it, Whiskar, my lad. Truly, I would. So does this mean you've gotten better with that blade of yours? I've been training eye, but mostly to kill the Imperials. You have some experience hunting monsters, don't you? Think you could cast an eye over a few of the local beasties to teach me how to deal with them? Yeah, sure. Let's not waste any time then. I'll see you by the lock. Whilst you are busy attending to the local fauna, I shall have Master Watt explain to me exactly what is required to restore the Sultry to its former glory. Good hunting. Right then, I've got a spyglass here you can use to take a closer look at these pests. Once you've got their measure, you can tell me what to do, and we'll see how well I get on. The hell? I don't get where it's wanting me to click. There it goes. Have to get right on the jaw, apparently. It's like, where the hell is it? I know I've done this before. The other's entire body is protected by hard cares, but the underside of the head looks soft and vulnerable. Ah, looks like you found a yabby. Is it hitting the shells like smacking a rock? Any suggestions? Vulnerable under the head, are they? Right then. Wish me luck. No, that wasn't very exciting. They could have done better with that. Thanks, I did just as you told me, and the Wivkin went down like a sack of potatoes. Let's find something else. I think I can handle the Abbeys now, so we should try something different. What else is out there? We got that one pretty quick, actually. The Foet's hands are large and powerful, but destroying its crystallized core should render the salt golem inanimate. You sense power pulsing from behind its brow. Ah, Phobot, how do I defeat one of those? Where's KK when you need him? He could do it real easy. Sight its head, is it? I'll try to stab it right between the eyes then. It's not easy fighting with the Liberator of Elamigo watching your every move, but I got the job done. Thanks for the advice. I feel a lot better prepared for my trolls now. Anyway, we should head back to the Saltery before Grandad starts to worry I've been snipped into pieces and fed to Yabby's hatchlings. Nothing even relatively close. It's like, well, if there's anything close, we'll go do that real quick. But nope, 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 nope. There's not. I see you returned in one piece. Dealt with those beasties then, did you? I fought them myself after a bit of instruction from the Warrior of Light here. Like once I've shared what I've learned with the others, we should have no trouble keeping the shoreline clear. Good lad. A fine young man you become. A fine young man indeed. Too often of late I hear tales of folk over in the city, drunk on victory and hungry for revenge, their heads stuck firmly in the past. But we need to set our sights on the future, on things which will improve our lot. Things like getting the Saltery ready to welcome our long lost countrymen. A blissful arrival. Seems satisfied the hin water of one mind. It seems Whiskar has the Saltery's security well in hand. I, meanwhile, have discussed the next step with Master Watt and completed my inspection of the site. With a little work, the vacant buildings here could be made into very presentable dwellings. Message from General Aldine. Apologies for the interruption, miss, but the General would speak with you at your earliest convenience. Do not feel obliged to wait around on my account. I'll remain here to hammer out the finer details with Watt and act as an intermediary with their business partners in Olda. You should go. Geraldina asks that you wait for him by the main gate in the Alamegan Quarter. My apologies again, miss. Fare you well. Huh. Oh. They instigated a war, sacrificed their comrades to summon a primal. If that's what you wish, you should go where you were happy. Home's not any particular place, it's wherever you're happy. With the people you love and care about, that's home. That took longer than I intended, but at least you know where I stand. Now that's settled, Ehrenwald, what news? We may have a problem, sir. A group of Nanta has arrived at the main gates, and I don't mean the Vera. These are the Quilana, the ones that summoned the Primal. They're insisting they be allowed to attend the council. Lisa's trying to reason with them, but she may need help. An invitation was extended to all the native beast tribes, but we assumed the Quilana would refuse it out of hand. We had best go and see for ourselves. Pippin, take the command of our forces and be ready for battle. You've dealt with these Quilana before. I'd have you at my side. Never thought the day did come when these gates were open to all. Oh, you wish to pass through? Yeah, I do. I do. Illusion Raban, good. It's time. It's good to see you. Ah, the Slayer has come. We have not forgotten how you sinned against the Lady of Bliss, but we did not come here to shed blood. You claim to seek harmony with all who call Garabania home. If this is truly your wish, we will come. You will welcome us as envoys of the Ananta. It is our wish, and you are welcome, but we cannot condone the summoning of primals. If you want to enter the palace, I must ask that you first surrender any crystal jewelry. You have my word that will be all be returned to you when the meeting is over. We will do as you ask, but you will not have our weapons. We are not so foolish as to place ourselves entirely at the mercy of our tormentors. I reckon that's the closest we're going to get to a compromise, and we will have people standing guard. Aye, let them keep their swords. Then we have an agreement. Lead the way to your meeting chamber. Why do I have the feeling we've welcomed a viper into our midst? Raban seems unconvinced by the Quilana's sincerity. This Quilana's elder's intentions seem at odds with all we know of her tribe. What think you, Illusion? It is said that once a creature has fallen under the sway of a primal, there is no salvation. And I strongly doubt the Quilana have suddenly broken free of Lakshmi's will. Whatever the truth, I would take no chances. The guard must be strengthened, ideally with people who know a thing or two about primals. Can we rely on the scions? I'll go round up our comrades and send them to Alamegan Quarter. You can go ahead if you like. My thanks. I'll see you in the palace. I've brought reinforcements. Interval between the arrival of our unexpected guests, and I agreed that it would be prudent to call upon Ishtola and Thancred as well. One can never be too careful when dealing with the enthralled. I'm not familiar with the Quilana tribe myself, but Alistair's report suggests that they shunned contact with other races. Despise it, in fact, even compared to other Ananta. Indeed, this apparent reversal in attitude is most curious. No one expected a response to our invitation, much less an envoy, and I imagine Lise was forced to make some rather hasty arrangements in order to accommodate them. Speaking of which, how should we deploy ourselves? If the meeting is to be held in the throne room, it would seem wise to have eyes both inside and outside the palace. Ishtola and I can stand guard without. That leaves the three of you to keep watch over proceedings in the throne room itself. Understood. We should join General Aldine inside then. Do you know if the rear entrance to the palace is on the eastern edge of the city? At the top of the stairs, a guard there should have been instructed to let us pass. arguing and bickering. Well, shit. Son of a bitch. Piss off. Yeah, you do. Wait a minute, where's the other scions? Thancred and... I'd fight her without leaving our allies wide open. We can't stay on the back foot forever. No, I think that we've already lost. I have the Warrior of Light on my side. We can do this. Isn't that right? hell you do. Seriously? Yes, yes, we do. Okay, thank you for coming in to help us here. Shit, stay away from me. Would be nice if I had. Oh my, Rock just went live. He's running late tonight. Come on. God damn it. You're on top of me. Took you long enough, Lise. fought. That was a near thing. Aye, we stand against the Quilana would have been brief indeed had you not volunteered for guard duty. We'd been enthralled as surely as our sentries were. They must have planned this far in advance. Security was my responsibility. I know how dangerous primaries can be. I should have... God, it's my fault. My stupid mistake. Nay, lass, we were all caught unawares. We will take this as a lesson and watch our own more carefully in future. You're sure that the lackeys who smuggled the crystals into the throne room weren't the only thralls in our ranks. The soldier who first spoke up in favor of the Quilana keeping their weapon springs to mind. A primal servant is betrayed by his aura. If you mean to conduct an investigation, I can identify any others acting under Sri Lakshmi's influence. Thanks, Ishula. We'd appreciate the help. Speaking of help, I almost fell over when Fedola turned up. What was she even doing here? I asked her to come. Well, that explains it then. It's sad, but Regenfried was right. Her victims will never forgive her for what she's done. But I don't think Fedola picked up that sword looking for forgiveness. She just wanted to fight for her country. If you say the world in which Fedola grew up is partly to blame for what she became, then as an Alamegan, I feel responsible for improving that world. We can't ignore what's happening right now. We have to show people a better way than vengeance, or risk giving birth to a new generation of skulls. I know it's idealistic, but I want to help people to let go of their old grievances and make peace with each other. And I'll hold 1,000 meetings and talk to them blue in the face if that's what it takes. 'Tis a long and arduous path you have chosen, but one well worth walking. Rest assured that I'll do what I can to help you reach your destination. Thank you, Alphino. The first step will be to get our representatives back in the throne room. They're a little shaken, but not one of them seemed ready to run. We're all determined to finish what we started. I'll see that you're not interrupted. You and the Simons are to stand down. Get some rest. You've earned it. She's got a point. Hmm. I'm surprised by this. I would have figured he would have been like, nope, I'm still going. Yeah, probably. Yes, yes, he is. She's way too happy. Like she'd turn you away. Think it's about time I head back to Rolgar's Reach. What's next for all of you? I'll say we'll be eager to hear of recent events. So I shall join you if you've no objections. I'd welcome the company, Illusion. Why don't you come along to the Reach as well, once you've said your farewell to Nanamo and the others? Upon completion, you'll be able to access the palace's rooftop gardens with the Roman menagerie attendant. How do I get... That message confused me, because it's like, wait a minute. Alvin has regaled me with thrilling tales of hidden treasure shows, mid-meeting betrayals. Unlike the alliance's joyous homecomings, it would seem I missed everything. I was filling the palace grounds with Thancred and Ishtola when we heard the report of our primal in the throne room. I just doubted my own ears. As others have said, we were lucky to have our Echo Bliss champions nearby this time, but we'll need to keep a closer eye on the Quilana. You can say that again. This whole episode has reminded me that just how far apart our kinds still are. It looks like centuries of fear and mistrust really can't be washed away in a day. But someone has to make an effort at reconciliation if these conflicts are ever going to end. Naturally, a lot of people are crying out for vengeance, but I've been doing my best to calm things down. Violent reprisals will only lead to more summonings. Naturally, a lot of people are crying out for vengeance, but I've been doing my best to calm things down. Violent reprisals will only lead to more summonings. Indeed, violence will ever beget violence, as the Empire has learned to its cost in recent times. In any case, something Lakshmi was the broodmother's doing, and whoever replaces her might not be so keen on the idea. We'll just have to watch and wait. Which isn't to say we won't be putting the safety of our allies in the Vera and M tribes first. I plan to have resistance scouts keep track of Quilana's movements at all times. My parents would believe to hear that. What are your plans for the rest of the resistance army, out of interest? Are we to prepare for Imperial counterattacks? That'd be a question for the resistance newest recruit, a military commander with far more experience than me. What, the Bull of Valamigo? We call it an army, but the resistance is really a collection of smaller independent groups. And when Conrad passes command on to me, that authority only extended to the freedom fighters based in Ralgar's reach. He just happened to be serving as the resistance spokesman at the time, and needed someone to take over the role while everything was in disarray, but that time has passed. When I speak with the other leaders about reforming the army under the new government, I'll be nominating Raban as the overall commander of our forces. He has a lot more experience than the rest of us put together, and we stand to learn a lot from him. Indeed, he is in all respects the ideal choice. Assuming he accepts the post, Alamigo will have added a formidable weapon to its arsenal. And given the progress of Nana's resettlement initiative, I see great cause for hope. The seeds which we so carefully sowed have begun to quicken, my friends. I like that. We tend to our promises and watch as Alamigo blooms. I do give thanks to the Kami that my makeshift raft withstood the fury of the seas. But their generosity ended. Without coins in our pockets, for new attire, we are doomed to look like so much jetsam. Oh, woe betide the poor man and city rich merchants. These danko are delicious. Will you have one? More sweetbreads? I surrendered my blade to secure what few coins we have. Bah, it is like talking to a child. Why fate saddled me with this burden, I shall never know. But I am alive and must return to my master's side. Come, Suya. We shall find a ship to carry us across the Ruby Sea. Have you heard the reports from first Doma, then Alamio, and Lord Xenos put to the sword? Do not believe everything you read. I hear the Viceroy was merely wounded, and has already returned to the capital. Naturally, the savages beat their chests and boast loudly of taking his head, regardless. Nay, Lord Xenos lives? Deplorable that our own officers should be fooled by Eorzean misinformation. Small wonder the province has begun rising up in rebellion. We must prepare an official and, above all, accurate announcement to quell these pernicious rumors. They would wage war with empty words. Let them produce the viceroy's remains. Then we shall soon put the lie to their claims. Okay, well, that's the end of tonight's adventuring. Let us be off and find someone to share our good fortune with here this evening. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got D20, 5 choices. Each one gets 1 through 4, starting from top to bottom. See what we come up with. Cocked the die. Fell off the table. Looks like it's rock by roll of dice. May fortune favor you all in this good evening. May the moon and stars shine bright for you. Till tomorrow, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. That is going